for a few moments. Then we can try to generate good intention by thinking, may us coming here together, listen to the teachings, become cause and condition to develop all the spiritual realizations within our mind stream. The whole Sutra and Tantric path. Into engaging the path, complete path, may we be able to achieve the Buddhahood as soon as possible. So we can help to liberate all sentient beings from all their suffering, cause of suffering, permanently. And so that we can help them to achieve their ultimate happiness. Okay. Would you like to share the prayer? Yeah. To the founder, the endowed, outstanding destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge, in good conduct, Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme guide for human beings to be tamed, teacher of God and human being, to you, the complete and fully awakened one, the endowed, outstanding destroyer, the blood is confirmed, the subdued from the shaker, clean, I prostrate, make offering, go for the faith. The founder, the endowed, outstanding destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyer, the completely perfect, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme guide for human beings to be tamed. Jesus of God, the human being, to you, the complete and fully awakened one, the endowed, outstanding the glorious conqueror, the subdued and shake acclaim, I prostrate, make offering, go for it. To the founder, the endowed, outstanding destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyer, the completely perfect, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge, in good conduct, so God, the Lord of the world, supreme guide for human beings to be tamed. Teachers of God, the human being, to you, the complete and fully awakened one, the endowed, outstanding the glorious conqueror, the subdued from the shaker, claim, I prostrate, make offering, and go for the first. 사시베기 중심에도 다마리라리지 인댕게바데 상계신도 미네우와 욕을 남한다시 제바조 예담구르라나 만달라가미야타야. I go for refuge until light into the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create to listen to Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentients. Sangye Shodan Soke Sonam La Chanchu Badodani. The Geshe Give Sonam Dola Pinche Sangye Do. Sangye Shodan Soke Sonam Chanchu Badodani. The Geshe Give Sonam Dola Pinche Sangye Do Bara Shom. So, based on this particular text, we have finished discussing about the stages of the path according to Sutra, and once we have developed the foundation of that Sutra path, then in entering the Supreme Tantra path, and in order to enter the Tantric path and practice in Tantric path, then we need to first receive the initiations to empower us to study, practice those practices. And once after the initiation, then again engage in the four type of tantra that we spoke about. And again, as we spoke about, in tantric teaching and practice, a certain method that can transform, without completely eliminating our afflictive emotions such as attachment, anger, and ignorance, through tantric technique and practice and method that we can transform them into the path. So that is one of the unique of that. There is a example given, there's supposed to be some kind of insect, I don't know exactly what kind of insect, that comes in depending from the tree, one particular tree, and then once that insects come to that tree, then that tree eat the tree, the insect eat the tree itself. And similarly, it says, in Tantra, from the attachments, you cultivate clear light wisdom. And through that clear light wisdom, then you destroy the attachments and all the delusions. Similarly, like that insect. And so, and sometimes it is, you can see, like when you do the Lama Chopa, there is, and that example was given many times. Even though, like for example, the lotus, even though it comes from the mud, but it is not diluted by the mud. Same way, that clear light mind the clear light wisdom arises from the attachment, but is not polluted by the attachments. And so that is because of a very unique kind of method. So then within the Tantra, we talk about the action Tantra, performing Tantra, yoga Tantra, highest yoga Tantra, fourth health Tantra, and, and then in the practice of, action and performing Tantra, then the main practice, the main path is, there is the path of the practice with sign and practice without sign. And in highest yoga tantra, then there is generation stage and completion stage. So those are the main two paths. But in the lower tantra, it is called the practice with sign and practice without sign. And in terms of practice with a sign, what it means is, one visualize. One visualize the mandala, the deity, the visualizations of the particular deity and the mandala. And signless, the practice of signless is then meditating on emptiness. Meditating on the emptiness. Okay, so these are the two main practice in the lower tantra. Visualization of the Buddha or the deity together with the mandala. That is the practice with a sign. Okay, and then the practice without sign or signless practice is meditating on emptiness. So these are the two main practice. And even in terms of the practice of the sign, with the sign, because in the lower tantra, that is one of the main practice is sometimes known as the six, there are six, the term used six deity, but it's not really deity, but one is at the very beginning, you visualize the self and all phenomena into emptiness. You visualize, you generate and think and meditate on the emptiness of the self and all the phenomena. Okay. And from that emptiness, then we practice. For example, if we do a practice of Avalokiteshvara, then from that emptiness, then we visualize that wisdom realizing emptiness manifesting into the sound of the mantra, like for example, Om Mani Padme Hum, the sound. So the whole space will fill with that kind of the mantra sound. And then that the mantra sound then is then generated in the letter, the Om Mani Padme Hum letter on top of the our wisdom mind that has generated into the form of lotus and moon. On top of that, then you visualize the letter, the Om Mani Padme Hum. Before you sound, now it is in the form letter, And also from that, then that letter together with the moon cushion and lotus cushion dissolve into emptiness, dissolve and transform into another, lotus and moon disk. On top of that, then one generate the form of the deity here, Avalokiteshvara, whether you visualize 1,000-arm Avalokiteshvara or 4-arm Avalokiteshvara, whatever Avalokiteshvara. the form, you visualize the form, Then once you have visualized the form, then you visualize the different syllable at each part of the deities, Om and the crown, A on the throat, Hum at the heart of the deity, and She also at the heart of the deity. And then once you have done, then then there is a certain mudra, of your hand in a kind of lotus mudra. Then with that mudra touching on your heart, throat, crown, and the true soldier. So that is kind of 6 different. Some each term we use 6 deity, but actually it's so these 6 6 form of practice within the practice of with the sign in the action, and so that is the main practice in the lower tantra, going through that. Of course, the mantra changes, the letter changes according to the deity, but that is basic. And then from practice of sign, then you move to the practice without the sign or signless, and that is simply, meditating on the emptiness of the deity and all phenomena, So first you visualize that, the deity in that way, and then without any kind of distractions or dullness, you try to concentrate on that form, the deity forms, So there are 2 ways of meditating. One is kind of going in details of each of details, okay, of all the deities, the detail of the whole deity. And then another form is without any analyzing and going details, but you just try to focus and place your mind and raise your mind in that general form of that deity. That is free from the mind, that is free from, any kind of distractions or any dullness, by applying the mindfulness and introspection mind that is needed for that kind of concentrations. And then if you are visualizing yourself as a deity, that particular deity, then, instead of visualizing as though there is deity that you are visualizing separate from you, but using you yourself as that deity and have that divine pride in that deity, having that divine pride, that we spoke about. So instead of seeing yourself separate from the deity, but seeing yourself in that deity form and holding on that, this is who I am, here in this case, Avalokiteshvara. And while you try to concentrate on that visualizations as a deity and have a strong divine pride, holding as the yourself, the Avalokiteshvara, without any kind of two-minded. while there is appearance of that deity, but there is no real inherent deity. So meditating on that. Even though there is appearance of deity, but there is no real, truly existing inherent deity. Even the deity is merely imputed on the basis. Just like the reflections of the moon in the lake. Even though there is appearance of the moon in the lake, but there is no real moon in the lake. There is no real moon in the lake. It's just an appearance. It's not real there. Same way, there's no truly inherently existing Avalokiteshvara that one had visualized, but that Avalokiteshvara is merely, appearance. By seeing the emptiness and appearance, while there is appearance, is empty of truly existence. While it is empty of truly existence, there is appearance. So that is the kind of, you can say, highest form of meditations in lower tantra practices. And so that is what we try to do, when we practice any deity according to any of the lower tantras. So I think that is, without going so much in a detail, maybe that is kind of enough. And as I mentioned before, according to the first two tantra, action and performing tantra, in terms of initiation, there's only one initiation, the initiation of the vows. Of course, there is subdivision within the initiation vows itself, but then when you go to the high tantra, then there is 4 initiations, vows initiations, and secret initiations, wisdom initiations, and initiation of the word. So there is that difference, and in terms of the practice, the main practice in the highest yoga tantra is the generation stage and completion stage. So there's a generation stage and completion stage. So then if you go to the verse itself, I think we finished verse number 63 before, we're 64, and we will finish today, maybe. So next is like, who can practice the, who can take those highest yoga tantra initiations, and so that is, and practice some of the tantric practice. So that is because the great tantra of pre-modern Buddha, in a Kala Chakra, in the Kala Chakra, it is mentions or forbid it emphatically, those observing pure contact should not take secret and wisdom initiations. So those who have taken a vows, such as monks and nuns who have taken vows of celibacy, or even as a lay practitioner, there are certain celibacy vows as well for lay practitioner. If you take the Upasaka complete vows, for example, even lay practitioners, there are many lay practitioners, Domdamba, Milarepa, they were not ordained, but they have taken the celibacy vows as well. So anyone who have taken that kind of celibacy vows, then, because of that, there's celibacy vows. Therefore, they observe pure contact here, meaning we are taking celibacy vows. And so for those, should not take the secret and wisdom initiations. Okay, maybe we'll come later. Here, when we talk, they should not take the secret and wisdom initiations. It means, in real, one should not take any kind of that kind of secret and wisdom initiation by, embracing with the real consort, with the real consort, with the real consort. So, because if you embrace with the real consort when taking a secret and wisdom initiation, then you break your vows. You break your vows. So that is why, the vows of celibacy. So that's why, if those observing a steady practice of pure contact, of refraining from any kind of, any kind of embracing, were to hold those initiations, their vows of austerity would be impaired, so they will break and have a downfall of their celibacy vows. Through doing that which is proscribed, So when you take the vows, then you take the vows of celibacy, not to engage. So if you engage in that, then you break your vows, you have downfall from that, breaking the vows. And because of that, this creates transgressions, which are defect, the root vows, you break the root vows. Defect for those observing discipline. And if you do that, if you break your root vows, and you have a downfall and defect of that, then since they are certain to fall in the bad rebirth, then you will take a rebirth in a unfortunate low rebirth, and they will never gain accomplishments. Then they will not be able to gain accomplishments. So, but one can take, the high yoga tantra initiation, the vast secret wisdom and the words initiations, through visualizations of embracing the meditative concept, but without actually engaging in the actual embracing with the actual concept. So if that is how nowadays, that's how initiations, to be able to really embrace the concept, it requires a lot of high realization from both the concept and both the practitioner who is engaging in embrace. Not any practitioner can engage in such practice. It's not allowed. You need to reach certain point through many practice, many different techniques of many practices. Not only yourself, but the consort also have to have that kind of ability and that kind of high practice. Both of them have to reach high practice, through practice with their wind energy and many other foundational practices, where they have total control over their drops, where they can kind of control over the drops, where they can suck in, out, and where they can all of that. So when they have reached that, then definitely then it is possible for someone to engage in such practice. And through those practice, they can open the channels, especially the central channel. That is one of the methods to open the central channel. By opening the central channel, then you have access to this clear mind. And that clear mind is very, very powerful mind to use to meditations. And for that purpose, that is what it is. So, but if one do not have the initiation, the secret and wisdom initiation, can you engage in some of the others tantric activities or not? So that is where it is. And here he is saying you can still engage in many other tantric practice or activities, even without the highest yoga, even without the secret and wisdom initiation. So there is no fault if one who has received precepted initiations, okay, but who does not have the initiation of secret and wisdom, and has the knowledge of suchness, listen to, explain the tantras, who have studied and learned and have the knowledge to perform those particular tantric activities, practices, those you have studied enough, you have learned enough, and from that you have the knowledge of how to perform, how to practice those different activities, and you have listened, you have studied yourself, or you are able to, because of your understanding through your studies, you are able to explain clearly to others as well. For those, then they can perform burn offering rituals, 5 pujas, for example. So someone can engage in the practice such as 5 pujas or ceremonies, to purify and to burn and to cleanse, negative energies, pollutions, delusions. So that is the fire puja, the fire ceremony. One can engage into that. Of course, you have to learn how to do it properly, and with all the things there. So that kind of 5 pujas or rituals or ceremony, one can engage in that if you know how to do. If you have the precepted initiations and you know how to do it, and all for that, then for certain purpose, one can engage, even one does not have the secret and wisdom initiation, still one can engage. And as I mentioned, the fire puja, the fire ceremonies, rituals is, sometimes done to clear obstacles. Whatever obstacle there might be, to clear those obstacles. Sometimes it can be done to clean and the pollutions, external pollution, internal pollutions. Sometimes it's done to purify our own negativities, delusions, negative karma, obscurations. So, yeah, So that can be done for different purpose. And sometimes the ceremony ritual is slightly different. It's not exactly the same, slightly different according to what purpose you are doing, and like that. Or making offering gifts and so forth. In Tibetan, I'm going to see what it is saying. Okay. And so, there are many different tantric activities, of peaceful activities, expanding activities, or ritual ceremonies, empowering ritual and ceremonies, and wrathful ceremonies and rituals. So there are many different like that, and then making offerings of, the dharma, ritual, ceremony cakes, and again within that there are many different forms of those practices, and so forth, so one can engage in those practices and activities. So with that, I think that is kind of complete the kind of the tantric path. And as I said, in highest yoga tantra, when one takes highest yoga tantra, in lower tantra, you don't have to take the tantric vows. You have to take both of the vows, lower tantras in order to receive the lower tantras. When you receive the lower tantra, part of the ceremony that one go through at the very beginning of the ceremony, before the actual initiation, empowerment given, within part of that ceremony at the very beginning, there's the master bestow, refuge. So one have to take the refuge. So part of that will be refuge vows, and then there is a both sort of vows. So then once one has taken that both of vows, then the actual granting empowerment initiation starts. So it's within the whole ceremony itself. Sometimes some teacher explain at the right time, okay, this is when you are taking refuge, and you should visualize. If you are ready to take it, you take it. Those who have taken, they can take it because it's just renewing, and both are same thing. Sometimes the teacher might not explain with the expectation everyone who has come there know exactly what's going on. Believing that everyone who is there, they know exactly what they are getting into, they know all that. And on the basis of that, then they might not explain it clearly, but they will just lead you through, and they will say, repeat these Bolsara vows, and everyone's repeat 3 times, and that is part of bestowing the Bolsara vows. And sometimes some teacher explains in those sometimes they explain, and sometimes the teacher do not explain, because I think most likely because they expect everyone to know, and so they might not. But that is part of the ceremony if you want to receive. And then highest yoga tantra, on top of the both other then as a part of ceremony at the very beginning, there's the refuge vows and there's the Bodhisattva vows, and then there's tantric vows. There's tantric vows. One have to take tantric vows in order to receive the highest yoga tantra. And then, of course, in the tantric vows, then there are 14 root vows, and so, and then in highest yoga tantra, sometimes there are other commitments, and it depends on teachers, who giving that. Sometimes they might ask you to do the long sadhana. Sometimes they might give you to do the short sadhana or middle sadhana or short sadhana. Sometimes they might not give you any sadhana, the lifetime commitments. Maybe they might ask you to do some mantras. Or maybe sometimes they might not even give you any even mantra commitment. Who knows? It depends on the teacher at that time, and that is more kind of individual for the teachers. And then of course succession guru yoga. And succession guru yoga, again, there is a short and long. Short one's very short, and so you do 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the evening. And a short one probably, it doesn't take even more than 10 minutes if you do quickly, But so anyway, those are kind of required kind of for the highest yoga tantra in terms of that. And then the main practice of highest yoga tantra is the generation stage and completion stage. And generation stage, is transforming our ordinary death, intermediate stage, and the rebirth into Tirikayas, the practice of Tirikayas. So again, is within the sadhana, there's all this practice go through, Of course, there are many, at the sadhana, at the very beginning, there are, again, it depends, extensive, middle, very short sadhana, but basically starting with the, lineage gurus and the refuge, bodhicitta, 7 limb practice, so there, and then, purifications, making offerings and so forth. And then when it comes to the actual practice, then, all the phenomena and yourself dissolve into the emptiness, and then try to meditate on emptiness. And in many cases, you do meditations. While you do the emptiness, you try to meditate on the 8 stages of dissolving at the time of death. At the time of death, there are stages that we dissolve, when our aggregates started to dissolve, when our earth element dissolve, there's external sign, internal sign, and then after that, the water element dissolve, that's external, internal sign, and then the fire element dissolve within our body, then there's external, internal signs. And then after that, then the wind element dissolve, and the external, internal sign, And then after that, our gross consciousness dissolve. All the gross consciousness mean all the sense consciousness and all the gross thoughts, all they dissolve. And then at that time, there's no more external signs, it's only internal signs, because by that time, clinically you are dead. But still you are not dead. Still, there's still subtle consciousness. The gross consciousness has left, but subtle consciousness not left. So there is the subtle consciousness, so that dissolve, the gross consciousness dissolve, and then, there's first, there's white appearance, the white appearance, subtle mind dissolve, and then there's internal sign. After that, there's a red appearance, subtle mind dissolve, then there's internal signs, not external signs. Then after that, there's a dark appearance, internal subtle consciousness dissolve, and there's again internal sign, and then that dissolve, and then the most clear light mind manifests, and then with that clear light mind, then you use that clear light mind to meditate on emptiness. You try to use that clear light. At the moment, of course, we are just visualizing that. At the moment, you don't really have that access to that unless you have reached high realization through your practice in method. But ordinarily, we just visualize that being that state and trying to meditate on emptiness on that clear light mind. So that is, we train that and then and through that kind of visualizations and practice, and then we are trying to transform our ordinary death into Dharmakaya, into the Dharmakaya, transforming into the Dharmakaya, ordinary death into Dharmakaya. And from that emptiness, then we visualize, from that Dharmakaya, then, I can't remain in this Dharmakaya all the time. I need to help and benefit other sentient beings. So with the wish to benefit and sentient beings, then you generate into a particular deity, particular deity, in a form of particular deity. From that emptiness, that wisdom relies on emptiness, transform into one particular deity, Different deity according to different satanas of the practice, For example, in Yamadaka, then you generate in the form of Manjushri, from that emptiness, Manjushri, And that is, so from the dead, ordinarily, from dead, next is intermediate stage, Pardo stage. And so here, through our visualization and practice, we try to, from that meditation on death, dissolution, and Dharmakaya meditation, then with that intention, then we, instead of the Pardo, then we manifest in the Sambhogakaya form of that particular deity. And with that kind of particular Sambhogakaya form, even though you are able to help and benefit a lot of sentient beings, but you are only able to help only limited sentient beings who have, high realization, like the Arya Bodhisattvas. Only the Arya Bodhisattvas has access to that Buddha's form, Sambhogakaya. Ordinary non-Arya Bodhisattvas and ordinary beings cannot see such Buddha's form, and they cannot have access to that Buddha's form. And so in order to benefit each and every sentient beings, even the most ordinary sentient beings, each and every sentient being, then again you generate a strong intention to be help and benefit to all sentient beings. And from that, then from ordinarily from the Pardo, then you have the next rebirth. So here, instead of Pardo, you have Sambhogakaya form. And from Sambhogakaya form, instead of rebirth, ordinary rebirth, then you transform into a Nirmanakaya form of deity. And Manjushri transform into Yamadaka form, if you are talking about Yamadaka Satana. And that Yamadaka form is the Nirmanakaya form that everyone, all sentient beings can have access and can receive the teachings, blessings, benefit, and that. And so here you see the ordinary death, intermediate stage of Parto, and the rebirth is being transformed into Dharmakaya, Sambhavakaya, and Nirmanakaya form in a generation stage through that kind of visualizations. As we train, if we get good at those training, if we can really, someone who has trained well, and if they can really train well, then at the time of death, actually they can transform instead from after the death, instead of ordinary Parto intermediate stage, they can have an illusory body. And from that illusory body, instead of ordinary rebirth, then they continue to make progress in that illusory body and achieve enlightenment. And so therefore that is the highest yoga kind of tantra, so that is more or less kind of the basic, the practice of the highest yoga tantra, the generation stage. That is the main. Of course, there are many, many different forms of practice. There are many different, within practice, many different practice. But the main core practice is to transform those three: ordinary birth, ordinary death, Parto, and rebirth into Tirikaya, into the path of Dharmakaya, into the path of Sambhavakaya, into the path of Nirmanakaya. So that is, so even though it's not happening there, but we have the potential. So at the moment, we train by visualizing being that state, stage by stage. And through that, we train our mind. So that is more or less generation stage. And completion stage, it's of course, first one need to go through the generation stage, and one need to be really, perfect the generation stage in order to enter the completion stage. Otherwise, you can do all different exercises that is explaining the completion stage, but if you have not perfected in the foundation of the sutra path and completion stage, then those all exercise become just an ordinary exercise. It just you can do all those different exercises, but they become just an ordinary exercises, nothing more profound, nothing profound. But if you have the strong foundation of the sutra path of pure renunciations, bodhicitta mind, and wisdom realizing emptiness, on the basis of that, then you have perfected the completion stage. You have completed. So when you perfect the completion stage, then you develop shamatha. One develops shamatha through the in tantra. In tantra, you develop the shamatha through the generation stage by visualizing yourself as deity, and then trying to keep your mind placed in that state of the Buddha or deity, free from all the distractions and dullness, and totally clear, stable, and with kind of alert and intensity. And through that, then one is able to develop karma abiding or shamatha. So you have all these. So you have uh, the three principal aspects of path as the foundations according to the sutra, and then while you engage in the practice of generation stage, then you develop the shamatha as well. You know, Mm. Not only shamatha, then you also develop the special insight, the vipassana, while you meditate and complete on a generation stage. Because in training on that, not only you try to see yourself as a deity, as I mentioned before, with a divine pride, but at the same time you train to see that deity is empty of true existence, inherent existence. Even there is the appearance, but it's empty. While it's empty, there's the appearance of that deity. So through that kind of training, while you try to, that is part of the whole practice within the generation stage. It's not just visualizing yourself as deity. That is one practice, visualizing your deity and having that strong divine pride. That is, of course, one of the core practice of that. But also in that practice, not only you do that, you try to meditate on emptiness of the deity. And through that, then you develop both karma abiding and or shamatha and vipassana or special insight. And once you have really strong practice of that and perfect that practice, then on the basis of that, then if one engaged into the practice of completion stage, where you use different techniques of exercises and different technique exercises to open your channels, to open. So the whole there are many different kind of practices, the vast practice, the Tumo practice, and the practice to levitate, and many different exercises. There are many different practice and exercises that one use, and all of those different exercise and practice is really a technique to open our central channel. At the moment, our central channels has been kind of not by the right and left channels. So, it is the channel is unable to function because there's knot, and so it's opening of those knot. And so when the central channel is open, the air, the wind in the central channels runs. When that wind energy runs, then the clear light minds run in that. And when that clear light mind, then we have access to that clear mind, and that clear mind is the one that the most powerful that we can use for our meditation practice to make a quick to achieve a quick result, easy and quick result in our meditation practice. Mm. So basically, the practice in the completion stage is through those different techniques and meditations, is to, learning the technique, and through those technique meditation to open the central channels, and then have the wind energy, to the central channels, the central channels and very heart of the central channels, entering it, abiding there, and dissolving into that, and through that, then and with those stages, then you go through for emptiness, and fourth blissful state. And after the fourth emptiness and fourth blissful state, then one have access to that most powerful clear light mind, clear light wisdom, and that clear light wisdom is the one that transforms into Dharmakaya wisdom. And the subtle wind energy that it ride on, that mind ride on, that's most subtle wind energies become the cause of, illusory body, and which become cause of the Buddha's form body, Rupakaya. So that is the. So yeah, I think that is all. I think to I don't think we need to go in detail with all those different exercises. I think, even I have to explain all of them. I wouldn't be able to explain myself all clearly. And even we do that, there's no purpose unless you have the foundations, Otherwise, it just becomes another ordinary samsaric trick. Or I can levitate, and it becomes a cause of attachments, arrogance, misuse. Or I can do this. I can have this tumu power to kind of keep a heat, even in the cold heat, and this and all of that. It only increase it can become a cause to increase our delusions, more pride, more delusions. But if we have those foundations, you have a realization of emptiness, shamatha, all of that, that wouldn't give any opportunity to have all these delusions. So then when you do those exercises and when you're able to achieve that, then those become really spiritual method and really a spiritual practice and method to open your chakra channels, and real path instead of becoming a cause for more delusion, And so that is why, and that is why also, most teachers, they don't teach, especially in our tradition, they don't teach in public. If the teacher is sure that the students, one or two individual students, they have reached that, they are ready for that teachings because they have all the foundations, the sutra path and the generation steps. They have a very stable practice. They have perfect that practice, and they see that the students are ready for the complete stand. Then they can give individual one-to-one initiations for completion stage, and then those different practice, especially those different technique meditations, and then so I think that is all. I think I, the elder Dibamkara Rakshri, Dibamkara Shri, so is Adisha his name, having seen it, explaining sutra and other teachings, have made this concise explanation at the request of Changju Wei. So then here Adisha is saying, he wrote this one on the request of the Changju Wei, who was the nephew of the Lama Yishi Wei, who was the king at that time in Western Tibet, who wanted to invite Adisha to Tibet. And he passed away before Adisha came in the prisons, but he made sure he asked the nephew Changju Wei to make sure that he invite Adisha and asked him to promise to do that, and so that is who Changju Wei is. Okay, that is Changju Wei. So he requested, and it says, Adisha was very pleased when Changju Wei, when Adisha first came to the Tibet. Changju Wei, the request he made is, please don't give us, advanced and profound and all those teachings. Please give a very basic teaching that is most beneficial for the Tibetan peoples. Even though he himself was very advanced practitioner, even though he could have asked some of the most profound teachings, some of the most advanced teachings, but he asked, what is most beneficial for the most Tibetan people. And so this is where, so on the basis of that, this is where Adisha wrote this. And he said, he tried to explain brief, concise explanation, not going so much details, but in a very brief, short. And he said he's explaining, of course, he's explaining from his own experiences. But here, with a kind of being humble, he says, he's explaining from what he read from the sutras and other teachings, sutras and other commentaries by earlier Indian masters. Based on that he had tried to write it according to that. And this became, as I mentioned, become the root text for all the Lamrim teachings. And as you can see, one of the unique of why we need to have the root text and commentaries. For example, this is the root text. And so when there is a Lamrim, Lamsong Kavas, Lamrim, other Lamrims are the commentary of that. And when you read the commentaries, you will see a lot of the things that is not explained here detail. They will go very detail in that Lamrims. So what is not here detailed, then they will go all of those details you find in the commentaries. So then that really helps you to understand this much more deeper level, depth level, because here sometimes he just touch on the subject, but he doesn't go in details because he wanted to keep it very concise, And so then the commentaries are the one that go into more depth and more deeper explanation on many of the topics that Adisha touched on this one. And in coming to the basic kind of teachings, the Lamrim teachings. While Adisha was, 17, 20 years in Tibet, even he was very highly accomplished tantric practitioners and masters. There isn't any report or record of him giving any initiation in all those years. There is no record of him giving a very advanced teaching on Tantra as well. Mostly he gave teaching on the Lamrim all his life there. And therefore, he was known as in Tibet, the Lama, the teachers of refuge, karma, and bodhicitta. because those are the subjects he always kind of repeat and continue to give that, because that is what they really needed, that foundational teachings, that foundational practice. And I believe it has a strong impact in the whole Tibetan culture because of that. Small children, they grow up hearing and learning, even they are not really kind of, they don't know much about Dharma, but they grow up knowing about karma culturally, knowing about being kind, compassionate, not to kill any kind of insect, animals, any beings, you know. And knowingly, unknowingly, having some kind of a refuge, and so it is, you grow up that culture because those teaching has been so embedded, and because that is what is kind of repeating. It needs to be repeated so many often times. Even with His Holiness, I see that at the very beginning, I used to wonder, why is His Holiness repeating that all the time? Why doesn't he talk something else? Why is he repeating that same time I've been hearing 30 years, 40 years? And sometimes, even before he started to say something, what he's going to talk about, what next and next and next. Sometimes we feel like, that's how we feel. But what I've noticed is some of those important messages, very important message that he wants people to really ingrain, really learn, and really be. He repeat that again and again because you keep on hearing that it on unsubconscious level. You started to kind of get into yourself. Otherwise, you hear some profound teaching, some profound message, some profound ideas, one time, two time, and you feel, wow, it is a profound, it is so nice, but you forget about it. You might remember for the days, maybe a week or months, or maybe even you might remember for a year, and then after some time it's gone. But some of those, His Holiness simple message, because you have been hearing that, even after your death, probably you will still remember then. That is how it changed your mind. And I think that was exactly also, I feel like what Adisha did as well. Keep always touching on the same importance, basic teaching and practice. And so reminding all the time those basic and important, basic but very important, crucial, those teaching and practice all the time. And through that, then it really started to integrate in people's life, integrate in the culture itself. And so it becomes so meaningful and beneficial. So yeah, so there is even one story in one of the, Lambrim, one of the disciples, came to see Adisha, and request him instructions, some profound instructions, So, the instruction at that time Adisha gave was, that you need to have the faith, faith in the refuge. But this is teaching that he had been hearing so many times. So he was not interested in that, he wanted something special instructions, something, so he was not happy and satisfied with that, He said, he didn't feel like it is an instruction because it's so basic that he had been hearing, and he says, Lama, Guru, please share and give some instructions. And then Adisha said, there's nothing more profound instructions than that. And that is what it is. What is most profound to us might be the most basic teaching and practice. What is profound, what is not profound, it depends on individuals. For some practitioners, the most basic teaching and most basic practice are the most profound for them. It might not be most profound for someone else who has made huge progress, but for someone, so therefore, we have to know ourselves and our own capacity, our own practice, our own, and according to that, then, yeah. Personally, for me, I always feel Lamrim is the most profound for myself, in terms of myself, because I think that is what I need. That is what I really need, and those teaching, those practices, even though there are so many profound tantric practice, as I mentioned, different exercises, all of that, I don't find them as profound because, or not much interest. Because if you don't have the foundation, then really stable, good foundation, then as I mentioned, those are just an exercise. Those are just an exercise that can become a distraction, that can become a cause of delusions, more delusions and distractions. Nothing more than that. It could just become like I say, through those practice, even you are able to fly. What is so big? What is so? Of course, a human being flying, people might be very wow, or he's able to fly, or he's able to levitate, and he's able to disappear into the underground, or people might be wow, but the bird can fly. What is so special about it? It doesn't really, being able to fly doesn't reduce your delusions, doesn't free you from the samsara and the delusions. Even you are able to disappear in the ground and under the ground, in the oceans, and even all of that, even though everyone might find wow, but it doesn't reduce your delusions. Instead, maybe it might increase your delusions because you started to feel you are something special than others. You are, you are more than others. And same with levitating and all these two things, or through the practice of Tummo, even you are able to, even in the cold winter you are able to keep warm. But again, in terms of spiritual practice, in terms of liberating from the samsara and the delusion, they don't mean much. All of those exercises, even you are able to achieve through those exercises, those results, unless you have all these foundations, so that because of all these foundations, it will never lead you to the delusions. It will never give you a sense of pride or arrogant. It will never lead you to become a self-importance, self-cherishing. Instead, those methods really help you in the spiritual path. It becomes really spiritual. Otherwise, a lot of time people get distracted, and a lot of time it instead of becoming spiritual, then it becomes a samsaric trip, to show your power. It can become just another samsaric trip. And that can happen because if you don't have those good foundations, that is all. If someone has those sutra foundations and generation stage, those good foundation, it will not become like that. Then then those become really tools, practice, method for your spiritual progress, your spiritual path, your spiritual developments. So yeah, so that is all, I think. And this concludes the lamp for the path to enlightenment by Acharya Dipankara Shrighyana. It was translated and revised and finalized by eminent Indian abbot himself, so Adisha himself, and the great reviser, translator, and fully ordained monk, Gyalo de Vistijong Temple Toling in Shangshung. Toling is one part of the Tibet, western part of the Tibet. Okay, I think with that, then we complete and conclude that. And I think last time when I spoke with Eloise about the next program, we kind of discussed, and she asked if I could teach on the short lumbering by Lam Tsongkhapa, which is called experiential lumbering, doing experiential song of the lumbering. And so we might start that from next week. So it will be good because in that you will find a lot of topic that is not discussed here, discussed there. And a lot of topic is discussed here in detail, it will not go detail in there. So it is a nice, because the topics that is kind of touched on here, but haven't gone in detail, you find more detail in that. And then some of the topic that he has gone more detail here, in that it will not go in so detail. So then with those two together, then you will find more kind of detail of the whole topic on the path. So, okay, so then we can do the dedications, yeah.
I'll read the list for dedicating tonight's teachings, and I'll leave a little space at the end if anybody wants to add someone for each category. For obstacles, we have Siri Khalsa, Jiwan Khalsa, SJ Khalsa, Alyssa, Sue, Jana, Nini, Christy, Jeffrey, and Sarah Hanlon. And does anyone have anyone else for obstacles? No, okay. For illness, Siri Khalsa, John Bailey, Jim Bailey, Joseph, Tony, Sujata, Randy R, Lisa C, and Rolf Dubler.
Is that Carola?
Carola? Oh, really?
Mhm.
Okay.
And please, would you add Diane L. and Cordia, Cordia, Cordia.
Cordia. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Carola, Diane, Al, and Cordia. And
And
those,
did you get Diane there?
yes,
Okay.
I did. And for those who've recently died, Rudabe Alam, Bird That Hit the Window, Michael Malone, Frankie, the beloved dog, Carrie's grandmother, and Carlo Gislamberti.
Yeah, but please add the Queen Elizabeth.
Oh yeah, Queen Elizabeth. Okay.
You want to share dedication? Due to the merit of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel, Bodhicitta, that is not arise and grow, and that may that which has arise and not diminish but increase more and more. Jigden kamde bende malu kamle jungwe sambe yishin Kaden sume tenzin gyatso la sowa deso tuje lunjo sho tubju chanshin janggen jawe tenzin jong bebe kunso tokol ze sho sum kuwe le mo tuju da so duje kunju sha ten sho Aba nu cho sa de do wa la ya wa kun le la pe tin jen je la yang sam xin cho de ri ru su chen la ka den ten be ke sha so. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you, John.